Hey guys, it's been a little bit, maybe a little bit longer. But all that aside, I wanted to come back and talk about if we will get a Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2. So without further ado, let's get right into it. If you don't know, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2 would be a follow-up to 2022's first-person shooter developed by Gearbox Software. The first game was released 3 years after the launch of Borderlands 3 to tide fans over until the launch of Borderlands 4 in 2025. The first bit of news comes in 2022, just a few months after the launch of Wonderlands, when Gearbox had announced they were acquiring Lost Boys Interactive. If you aren't familiar with why they are important to the story, it's because they co-developed Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, so it's safe to assume this acquisition was to pull in the staff that was already familiar with the franchise and game to hopefully develop the sequel or to help with future main entry Borderlands games. Rumors have circulated the past few years that Gearbox could be working on the game. This developed further in November of 2023 when it was reported by Eurogamer that a technical director was hired as a contractor at Gearbox Software from May of 2022 to July of 2022 to support the development of Borderlands 4, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2. Gearbox didn't comment on the article, but the development of another game shouldn't be too surprising given Take-Two, the publisher of the franchise, reported that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands dramatically exceeded Take-Two's expectations in terms of sales. And what's even more interesting is that 30% of the players for Wonderlands were completely new to the Borderlands franchise as a whole, which is what you want, especially with an aging franchise that it's harder to get into when you're on the third or fourth entry. Now fast forward to 2023, Kotaku had done some reporting and learned that the sequel to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands went through a soft reboot. The article had no other details except the project is still very promising and progressing well, but it had caused some feelings of uncertainty among the staff. Now, to understand the next part, you will need to understand the current state of the video game industry, where there have been consistent layoffs among large and small developers throughout the past few years, and Lost Boys Interactive was no different, unfortunately. The initial plan when Gearbox acquired the studio was to staff up to 350 members in the next few years. That was the plan until January of 2024. It was announced that an unknown number of employees were laid off, and a producer mentioned it was a sizable portion of the studio. They then went through another round of layoffs that same year in September of 2024. MP First then reported in December of 2024 that they had heard from their sources that Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2 was cancelled, which they assumed was caused by the layoffs at Lost Boy Interactive, and a few ArtStation and LinkedIn profiles with former Lost Boys developers who list the game as unpublished or cancelled, which is a little bit of a stretch but worth mentioning. And even with the layoffs, this would be surprising that Gearbox wouldn't take it in-house. So while this was reported on, I don't know if the community actually believed it or really trusted that yes, the game was officially cancelled. A few months before that, and what people point to as why they think it's still in development, is Randy Pitchford, the CEO of Gearbox, had done an interview with All Out Gaming and had confirmed they were working on a sequel to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which make the rumors of cancellation seem less true. And he said he feels like they are just getting started with that story.
I really loved Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. We were talking about it earlier.
Me too.
Is that a series you see continuing on into the future alongside Borderlands? Or do you feel like Tiny Tina's told her story and we're fully onto the new?
Oh, I feel like we're just getting started there. I love fantasy, and we have a whole team of people that love fantasy.
The last point worth mentioning is in December of 2025, it was announced that Lost Boys Interactive was splitting from Embracer Group and will return to be an independent studio. Lost Boys had already split from Gearbox in 2024 when Gearbox was divested by Embracer Group, and part of that payout and deal was for Lost Boys to remain with Embracer. So it sounds like if Gearbox is working on this game, they're either bringing in a new studio or they're working on it themselves. So what are my thoughts based on all of that? I do think Wonderlands 2 is still in active development, with Gearbox potentially leading the development and even maybe having a new co-developer. I think the project has been in development since the launch of the first game in 2022, whether that was just early pre-production, and has likely had ongoing changes, which is not surprising considering all the changes at Gearbox and Lost Boys Interactive. I would assume too that the game will develop in Unreal Engine 5 to match Borderlands 4, and it will follow normal timing as the first one, so we should hopefully be seeing a release for this game in the next 2 to 3 years, especially once some of the Borderlands 4 DLC has launched and the fans are looking for something else. Let me know what you guys think below, and if you are still waiting for a sequel to Wonderlands. Honestly, on a personal note, it's great to be back making a video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.